All right, good evening, everyone. Coming to you here from my dining room. I am finally getting around to reviewing this trade here between Maxx and Alex that took place last week here, actually on Wednesday the 27th. It's been a little hectic over the past few days. I know I previously promised this review yesterday, but just did not get around to it. But I am getting it to you here today, and I just want to jump into things here and thank you, Maxx and Alex, for making a move here, each in your respective, for your own respective reasons. One obviously for contention, and one for rebuilding, at least from what I could see with the pieces that were swapped in this deal. Did a little bit of analysis earlier today, so I have a chance to take a look at the ins and outs of the trade here. I have to stop my cat from eating flowers really quickly, so give me just a second. Okay, he's going to be good for the rest of the review here. Getting back into it. So here are the pieces. Let's jump in. The Fighting Hellfish in this trade gave up Jameis Winston, A.J. Brown, a 2020 7th rounder, and a 2021 first rounder. And the D-Gens from Upcountry in this trade give up Derrick Henry, Joe Schobert, and Trey Burton. Overall, I'm seeing this very clearly as a contender trade for Maxx. He's making this trade to hopefully get that 4th playoff spot and be able to contend in the postseason here in the coming weeks. On Alex's side, I see this as a rebuild opportunity. So Maxx is really getting 2 pieces here that are going to help him a lot if he makes the playoffs here, which is something I'll get into towards the end here in a few minutes on how that picture is looking as well. Derrick Henry, automatic start running back, along with Zeke and Leonard Fournette. James Conner's still injured. Who knows what he's going to be able to do the rest of the season. Sony Michel's been inconsistent. He really can't even be fully relied on as like a 4th starter if you're putting 4 running backs in each week. And a lot of additional injuries on Maxx's squad have really depleted his running back depth. So getting Derrick Henry in there was a very smart move. He's been extremely productive. He's a running back 3 through week 13 with 1,360 all-purpose yards and 13 total touchdowns, doing some damage in the receiving game, but getting a lot of that done in the ground game as well. So pretty good balance there for Henry. With Schobert, Maxx had a pretty weak linebacker core going into this week behind Blake Martinez. Quan Alexander goes down midseason. That makes things tough. Miles Jack, who I'm sure Maxx was relying on to be, his 2nd or at least his 3rd best linebacker, has had a pretty underwhelming campaign. So getting Schobert in there gives him highly valuable production at the LB slot for the stretch run. What does Maxx give up? On his side, an expendable quarterback, at least given the remainder of his core, talking about Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, obviously. Plus, he's got Andy Dalton in there, which, a few weeks ago, you're thinking this is not really a guy who you can rely on because he's not starting, but he's back in the starter slot. Drew Lock's got some future potential, had a pretty good showing this week, I would say. Didn't really dig into his performance very much, but there is some potential there. And then Josh Rosen, obviously there's a possibility in the future that he's able to stick somewhere as a starter. For now, he's depth and he's a stash. He does mortgage a portion of his future in the 2021 first. A.J. Brown, he's really from what I can see, the most interesting piece in this trade, at least from a potential perspective. Derrick Henry, obviously, his skill is known. He's out there and he's doing great things. A.J. Brown has flashed a lot of serious potential. And even as a rookie, he's already the de facto wide receiver 1 in Tennessee. So when you look at that, usually receivers take 2 to 3 years at least to get going. A.J. Brown's already, albeit boom or bust in many cases, which is very typical of young wide receivers. He's getting his name out there, and he really is looking very promising for the future. Looking a little bit more at Alex's side of the deal, he obviously gives up 2 top options at their respective positions, Derrick Henry and Joe Schobert. So this leaves Alex a little strapped here with only 2 really true running back starters on his team at this point in Kamara and Austin Eckler. Trading away Derrick Henry leaves Alex with basically just those 2. He's got Tevin Coleman and Latavius Murray, who can be startable depending on the week, but the remaining pieces he's got there, if you look at his roster, they're either depth pieces or rookies that are going to take some time to develop, or it remains to be seen. Now on the linebacker side, Alex's overall linebacker core is decent, but losing Schobert is a little tough given the trajectory of his team here. Jamie Collins, he's returned to New England. He's looking pretty revitalized in a lot of ways, and he's having a very good campaign. Fred Warner, young linebacker showing a lot of promise, and he's not only producing now, but could also be a centerpiece IDP for a rebuild situation like Alex is targeting here moving forward. Then you've got Zach Cunningham, number 3 in the pecking order, and then he kind of drops off a bit. I see Khalil Mack on Alex's linebacker squad here. Really draws a good comparison to Von Miller as far as fantasy goes. Superstar player in real life, marquee name, guy who just completely, intimidates and terrifies offensive players. But in fantasy, the production just doesn't translate the same way. Raekwon McMillan is a depth piece, I suppose. I'm not sure if any Dolphins linebacker is really someone that you want to have given how putrid that defense is. And Lorenzo Alexander, he's a veteran who I also don't see a place for him on Alex's squad. Tough thing about losing Schobert, he's young. He does a lot of his damage through tackles. Past few weeks' performance is pretty unsustainable. He may not ever see back-to-back weeks again with multiple picks. But they're still, looking at his overall volume, a lot of future potential being shipped out. I feel like putting Jamie Collins in this trade on Alex's side, if he was offered, it would have been smart to consider offering him, even if Maxx wouldn't accept. But I see him as the more obvious guy that you would send to the contender side in a trade like this. Quarterback, his core currently consists of Josh Allen as the QB1, Aaron Rodgers as the QB1A2, Mitchell Trubisky as QB3, and Joe Flacco is mostly useless. He's on IR. So Alex needed to address this position at some point, and I think he makes a really good addition here with Jameis. He's the QB8 on the year, so he's firmly entrenched in QB1 territory. There are questions in the real-life quarterback world for Winston, but in the fantasy world, he does produce fairly consistently, and he's likely to continue doing that until further notice. You're going to have some down weeks, but he's got solid offensive players. He's got 2 of the top guys that he can throw to out there in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Finally, wide receiver, most intriguing piece comes into play here. A.J. Brown, known commodity in the fantasy world, and it's really not too often that you see rookie wide receivers playing at the level he's achieving in year one. I talked about him already. He's already cracked the top 32 in production on the season as a rookie. Arguably the most exciting prospect from this upstart crop of rookie pass catchers. So on paper, Alex's wide receiver core is looking like it could be pretty good. It's not quite there yet, but Devontae Adams, your de facto number 1 guy. Cooper Kupp also really an every week starter, despite some down weeks. Juju, tough year, but I see him bouncing back. I personally traded for him in League of Thrones. I think that he's going to bounce back. And I think that, looking at the other pieces here, Alshon Jeffrey, Tyrell Williams, start worthy when needed. And then you also have 2 high potential rookies in A.J. Brown. And he already had Hollywood Brown. Now he's A.J. Brown. So he has both of the rookie last name Browns in both of their respective situations that are looking pretty like they could be pretty fruitful. Draft capital is where I've had to mark Alex down. I think up to this point, really both sides did great. Here's where I got a little, sort of confused by the deal. Great to get the 2021 first. That could be really valuable in, basically a couple years from now, close to that. With the 2027th, that's where I got confused. To me, the inclusion of a 2022nd or even a second and a third for 2020, I know Maxx couldn't include a 2021st because he's traded his first rounders for next year away, but I just see the more valuable draft pick making sense here, just given the swap of assets. That's my only real gripe here, though. I mean, Alex still gets the 2021 first, still gets a quarterback, still gets a very promising budding young wide receiver, so I can't complain too much. Grades on this trade, Maxx, a solid A. I think this is excellent value that was given up for the pieces that he received, and I think if he's able to sneak into the playoffs, this gives him a really good shot. Alex, a B-, just due to the fact that he wasn't able to obtain some better draft capital for 2020s, but still a solid trade, getting Jameis Winston and A.J. Brown and the 2021 first. Impressive deal on both sides. Glad to see another big one go down before the deadline. Funny aside, Maxx and Alex are basically all but locked into each having a 5-8 record going into week 14. Maxx and Alex are 1-1 against each other, so we have to go to the second tiebreaker after head-to-head record, which is total points. So Maxx has like the slightest edge on Alex as of right now. It's going to be really close if they both win or both lose in Week 14. They're not playing each other, so there's no win and you're in type situation necessarily, unless the other loses. Since they're not playing each other, it gets crazy. So it's going to be interesting. And we'll see what happens here. It's going to be a wild Week 14 just because of that matchup. A lot of interesting stuff going on over the next couple weeks. Excited to see all of it and to see all the outcomes here. And we're all here for it. We'll see what happens. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and talk to y'all later.